Well, the experience of Malala was one of the things I talked to Sir Salman Rushdie about when I went to meet him this afternoon. He was in London for this evening's Europe premiere of the film adaptation of his novel Midnight's Children. The story follows two children born in Bombay at midnight on the eve of India becoming an independent state. The author wrote the screenplay and voiced the narration for the film himself. And I began by asking him what it's like to see a novel you've written on the big screen.
Well, it's finally, it's taken me a lifetime to have the answer to that question. And this novel it's 31 years old, So in a way, it's like revisiting the work of a younger self, And I must say, I'm just delighted. I think in many ways, by waiting this long, we've got this ideal group of people to do it.
People always speculated that there was much of you in Midnight's Children. Will we think that when we see the film as well?
I don't know. You'll have to tell me. I think what's true is that what is personal is that it's a film about my generation. It's a film about all the people who grew up when I was growing up. And it's true about Salim as a character that he shares things in common with me. I mean, he essentially grows up in my neighborhood in Bombay. He sort of lives in my house. He went to my school. His school friends are versions or composites of people that I knew. So that's true. But then remember that what happened to me was that when I was 14 years old, I came to England to go to boarding school. And Salim never does that. He stays in South Asia, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. So as we get older, the lives diverge completely.
What do you think it tells us about modern India?
Well, I mean, I think it shows that this was a country that was born, of course, it was born amidst great bloodshed, but also with enormous optimism and potential. And I think that's what the idea of the Magic Children is there to represent, the incredible potential and hope of this new country. And I think, well, the novel and the film talk about, in a way, about the disappointment of that hope, about the way in which that potential was to an extent squandered. And of course, life is cyclical. So that's 30 years ago. India, of course, since then, is in many ways very successful, but in many other ways is still squandering the potential of that hope.
And what about where Pakistan is today?
Well, it's in a worse place than it was when I wrote this book. What is interesting is that in that first generation after independence, India and Pakistan still had a lot in common. There were a lot of people, there was a lot of knowledge across the frontier. And as time has passed, as the generations have passed, they've grown further apart. And oddly, Pakistan, for a country that was born out of religion, was never that religious. It wasn't a place in which religion was rammed down your throat, early Pakistan. Now it's much more heavily and conservatively religious than it ever was.
What do you make of this attack on this 14-year-old girl?
It's hideous. It's hideous. And I'm pleased to see that people in Pakistan are reacting as they are, which is to react as they should, with horror. I mean, what did she want? She wanted an education. For wanting an education, she got shot in the head. Well, it says a lot about an ideology that will react like that to a 14-year-old girl wanting to learn something.
And when you say an ideology...
I'm talking about Taliban Islam.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. I mean, we still talk very much in this country about radical Islam and Islam. Do you see that same distinction?
Well, I know that I was looking at, articles that have appeared today in the press in India and Pakistan, and a lot of people have been saying that it's time for Pakistan to rescue Islam from the Islamists, because otherwise it's going to be too late. What's happening is that the fanatics are taking over, and that has to be stopped. And maybe this little girl's tragedy will help to change that.
Salman Rushdie.